Good evening and thank you for joining us and sticking your eyes on Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. This is Business Today and my name is NAHABWE with Winnie Wiyinza Nakawuchi in the sign language. To begin with on our stories today, let's look at the African Continental Free Trade Area. Now, with over 54 countries to trade with, Uganda qualified for the ratification of the African Continental Free Trade Area in 2018. Unfortunately, the adoption of the market is still concerning because most of the players are unaware of it. The African Continental Free Trade Area will greatly increase trade and notably trade in value-added products. Let's have a look.
Free trade area facilitates international trade and the associated gains from trade along with the International Division of Labor and Specialization. But they have been criticized for the costs that are associated with increasing economic integration and for artificially restraining free trade. According to Blessing Owomugisha, the General Secretary of Uganda National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Ugandans lack knowledge about the free trade and low production, which limits most of them.
To get to these markets, we have to do particular things to be competitive in nature. One, what are our qualities and quantities? What is the quality of the products that we're taking there? Some countries will allow you to trade with them, but they will limit the quality. Now, if our quality is not very good, then we can't penetrate those markets. Number two, it's nine with, of course, the quantity. Quantity comes in with even transportation. You can't just be taking one consignment. People are taking billions of consignments. It is very costly for you to just take a piece of a consignment to those markets. The other thing is that we are required by law that before we start operating in these markets, we need to have a trade strategy and policy. Uganda is still within the stages of preparing this trade policy, which should have, of course, ended maybe last year or years before, because we've taken a lot of time in this.
Furthermore, the laws that each nation must adopt in order to make use of the free trade area are unclear, and the government has been tasked with finding a solution so that the private sector may also benefit from the free trade.
Time waits for no man. As we do our part as the private sector, we call upon the government to do their part to make sure that the policies that are needed to be put in place are actually fastened so that we start on the exportation that we need for African Continental Free Trade Area.
The Uganda Free Zone Authority, a designated location in Uganda where duty-free goods are kept, manufactured and processed for export, has found that a lot of manufacturers haven't registered with them. Everyone who exports 80% or more of their business's output, both domestically and internationally, is qualified to invest in free zones. When Rebecca Naluoa, the Director of Business Development and Investor Support at Uganda Free Zone Authority, was contacted, she emphasized the need for any developer to have a license in order to work in the free zone.
Key requirements: one, a site. It has to be identified. Two, you need to incorporate. You need to give us a business plan. You need to carry out an environmental and social impact assessment. Then the other requirement that is very instrumental is financing. You have to show us, and this is usually in the business plan, but also when we do the evaluations, that you have the financial capacity of setting up a zone or establishing a zone or operating a free zone. So those are primarily, I would say, the five parameters that we look out for.
Producers have access to a significantly large pool of potential consumers or suppliers. Additionally, free trade zone can promote a national economic growth and raising people's standards of living. Desire Nambiru, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Thank you, Desire Nambiru, for that report. Now let's look at the fate of small and medium enterprises. Although Uganda is regarded as one of the most entrepreneurial states, its bulk of businesses rarely make it to its third birthdays. The same issues continue to persist with the same outcomes, despite the causes of the problem have been determined and several interventions have been made to reverse the trend. Our reporter had different conversations with entrepreneurs who emphasized the need for resilience.
Statistics from the Uganda Revenue Authority show that small and medium enterprises account for approximately 90% of the entire private sector, generate over 80% of all manufactured output, and contribute 20% of the gross domestic product. Despite this significant contribution to the GDP by small and medium enterprises, they remain constrained by lack of financing, skills, business records, leading to a phenomenon that a typical Ugandan business does not go beyond its third birthday. Joel Bamwise, coordinator Commonwealth Alliance for Young Entrepreneurs, therefore believes that your business to thrive, there is a need for a comprehensive business model.
It is commonly said that typical Ugandan businesses are not able to reach their third birthday, and it is practically true, but mainly because they do not have the right skills or the skill sets that are required for them to build bigger and stronger businesses. The first most important thing is everyone has to ask themselves, what problem am I solving? The business model. How do you actually make money? It is one thing to build a non-profit business or a business that is just for survival versus a business that is scalable and that is solving a problem, an existing problem, and then is able to scale up and become broader. So our focus has been that we encourage them to build sustainable business models that don't need to be dependent.
Problems that we find while trying to do business with the typical Ugandan business, SME or a smaller and micro enterprise. The single biggest problem we find is a lack of record keeping. The business is doing well, but the owner of the business cannot tell you their monthly sales. They can't tell you their monthly expenses. They don't have a record where they're keeping this. So when they come to the bank, it's very difficult to do an assessment because you're starting from, you don't have anything to start from. So in my message today, and in the message we continue to give our customers, we are saying to them, record keeping is good for you as a business. It's good for you as a customer of the bank. It's also very, very good for you to know how you're doing. It's good practice. It's good for you from a tax point of view. Yeah. So we are encouraging our customers as part of our financial literacy. By the way, another way we are giving back to our customers is to educate them on the fundamentals of business. We have heard this statistic repeated often, that a typical Ugandan business does not go beyond its third birthday. The ideas are good, the customers are there, but because there is poor corporate governance practices, they die a stillbirth.
To overcome the many challenges Ugandan small and medium enterprises face and make them more resilient so as to harness their full potential is not any easy task.
To the people that say a typical Ugandan business does not see its third birthday, they need to come over here and see what NISAT has done. There is over 100 businesses here that have survived over 3 years, and we are Ugandans. We are young Ugandans. So it is just a stereotype, I believe. Resilience. As long as you're resilient, you can survive up to, your business will live beyond you. You will die, live your business, and then to continue living.
First of all, the idea that you're going to get rich quick is not something we can go with. It has not worked the past years, it will never work. So you need to slow down, get information. Whatever you do, you must be really, really good at it. You need to be the person who's the best in what you do. It does not just happen, you must find information. NISAT provides some of that information, but it can't end there. I wish I had another course and another course and another, because I want to be the best at what I do. I want to be the biggest beekeeper, not in just Africa, but in the world. I want to be consulted.
In Uganda, a micro-enterprise is an enterprise employing up to 4 people with a revenue turnover or total assets not exceeding Uganda shillings 10 million. On the other hand, small enterprises employ between 5 and 49 and have total assets between 10 million and not exceeding 100 million. The medium enterprises therefore employ between 50 to 100 with total assets more than 100 million but not exceeding 360 million. Bedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Moving on, Uganda's efforts to transition to a middle-income economy are heavily dependent on expansion of industry. Now, the pressure for environmental protection and sustainable development is intensifying, and the new systems like carbon trading are emerging as alternatives to offset emissions as climate change continues to become a serious global issue. Let's have a look.
As the importance to offset greenhouse gas emissions grows, the need for economic growth has been redefined as the world struggles to create climate-smart investments that are attractive from both a financial and environmental viewpoint.
And for carbon trade is growing by the day, and Uganda has a high potential to go into carbon trading. Reason being that Uganda is very rich in natural capital, in the natural resources, forests, wetlands, all those ecosystems. We are very rich, and those are carbon sinks. So we need to prepare ourselves and position ourselves very well and have all the readiness mechanisms in place. Currently, Uganda does not have regulations to go into carbon trade, and we are in the process of doing that. Secondly, we need to have all the architecture to ensure that we can participate effectively.
One of the expanding environmental economic endeavors is carbon trading, which offers a means to offset emissions through forestry and preservation of wetlands and the environment at large to build carbon sinks.
Paid to maintain this plantation for a number of years. But actually what is being done is that an industry somewhere in the world is emitting excess carbon dioxide, and that excess carbon dioxide, they pay it in form of a fine, which is monetary, and then that money is used to pay a grower in Uganda to maintain a bigger forest, which in principle is going to absorb some of the carbon dioxide from the environment. There are estimates, and the estimates are based on the type of tree and the acreage. So basically, those who are involved in carbon trade, you'll be told that if you grow this species of tree and this amount of acres, you'll be paid this month. So the payment is based on how many acres you have.
The market, which is still relatively new to many African nations because of both compliance and voluntary carbon markets. Gabon just launched a program to issue 187 million carbon credits, and Uganda is becoming a hotspot.
Carbon trading is going to be one of the most expensive commodities in the years to come. So Uganda has a very high potential to tap onto that.
In reaction to industrialization, land usage, and other human activities, Uganda has experienced rising temperatures since 1995 as socio-economic transition goes out of hand.
Looked at in this state of climate, the temperature started increasing slightly all the way from 1995, and up to now the temperatures are continuing increasing. And from the 2021 state of climate, it shows that areas of western Uganda, western region, the temperatures are increasing more than any other parts of the country.
It's possible that this is a reaction to the rising unemployment crisis reflected from Uganda's low GDP per capita, as new business concepts such as waste management, among other green jobs, are hardly enticing to most Ugandans.
Failing to train these key important players around waste management. And you know the reason? Because everyone sees it's waste, it's dirty work. I myself, my first research when I'm becoming an activist, that's where I went. And I can tell you that if we train these stakeholders and improve their standards at work, the youth will be attracted to join that industry. Do you know that a kilo of plastic, sorted plastic, this simply polythene, goes for 500 shillings? Very little money. And these are key players who are actually helping us to stop what we call the landfill. And I'm talking about only the waste sorters, but not the guys who drop the waste. You understand? So my area of emphasis as a key player is to follow the 17th sustainability or the goal to partner with KCCA.
The manufacturing sector, according to Isaac Oropet, is committed to sustainable production through the support of climate-smart projects in forestry as a way to produce sinks for the industrial carbon footprint.
Countrywide, we are running a tree planting campaign. We're working with different organizations. For example, we have a partnership with Total and Stambik to plant fruit trees in schools. We currently have a capacity of producing up to about 500,000 seedlings every year. And all these are given out for free.
Despite difficulties with market dynamics and project literacy, carbon trading is one of the models African states are adopting to combat global warming and climate change. Ivan Tivenkana, Smart 24, Business Today.
Carbon trading should definitely be an investment for the Ugandan government. Thank you, Ivan, for that report. Now, moving on certification of products. Now, product certification involves the issue of a certificate or a mark by a third party to show that a particular product satisfies a defined set of standards typically stated in a standard, such as safety, fitness for use, and trade-related features for that product. Our reporter had an insight to this story. Let's have a look.
Typically, the product certification mark can be seen on the product or its packaging. It may also be seen on a certificate given by the product certification agency. Gaining consumer confidence, protection from unfair competition from subpar items on the market, and technical audits of product quality and process control methods are just a few of the ways certification benefits businesses. Stakeholders educate the public about the value of product certification.
We are largely smallholder farmers, rain-fed, seasonal. Someone is in jackfruit this year, next year is in mushrooms, is in chilies, seasonal. Someone is operating from Chotera, a year later, they're operating in Kampala. So, lack of critical mass, nomadic business, these make certification difficult. There are private standards like Global Gap that can enable our exporters to access high-end export markets in Europe, but they are also expensive.
Consumers are intended to receive third-party guarantees of the quality, safety, and dependability of products through the UNBS product certification scheme. The UNBS quality mark is a guarantee that a product complies with applicable standards. The manufacturer's performance is routinely monitored by unexpected inspections and testing of samples taken from the production and from the market.
Certainly, if a good is not satisfied, you cannot tell, or you cannot never be sure of its quality, and therefore cannot even you cannot know whether it meets the standards.
Zake Fred keeps giving advice on how certification can be made simple and a top priority by company owners.
There is need for proactive support from government and development partners to train and support our entities, enterprises, to upgrade and embrace international standards.
The certified product is presented with a better image at both national and international markets, resulting in mutual recognition schemes where countries recognize one another's products, easing entry into regional and overseas markets, simple acceptance and promotion of new products in the markets, and also promoting the image and reputation of the manufacturer. Bornia Katsime, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Moving on, let's look at the government securities in banking. Now, when the government borrows money from the general public, it issues treasury bills and bonds commonly referred to as government securities through the Bank of Uganda. The investor is effectively making a short-term loan to the government and anticipates receiving both the principal and the interest generated during the period of investment back. Ma has details this report.
Treasury bills and bonds are used by the Bank of Uganda as a tool to raise cash and funds for investment, according to Stephen Birungi, the bank's market analyst. Treasury bills and bonds only differ during the maturity period, meaning that treasury bills are short-term, whereas bonds are long-term.
The Bank of Uganda uses as an agent of government treasury bills and bonds. So the difference between treasury bills and bonds is just the length of their maturity, with our treasury bills being short-term, and we have standard maturities. So treasury bills we have 91 days, 182 days, and 364 days. And then treasury bonds, they are just longer term, longer than 1 year. And the standard maturities we have 2 years, 3 years, 5, 10, and 20.
The treasury bills and bonds, which are safe and yield high interests, make it possible for the government and banks to raise funds to settle debts.
Are items that they can put out for the public, even you yourself, you can go and buy. If they want to increase supply of money, they will issue out so that the public comes and buys, so that they are getting the money from the public. They want to reduce it, they will raise those rates up so that people cannot afford them, okay, to keep money within supply. So what they usually invest in, a number of them, including DFC, which is I think the leading, the representative of the commercial banks, you know, they will invest. If you look at their portfolios, mostly it's treasury bonds. So these are very safe. They are between 10 and 20 years and above, with very interesting yields or interest payments back.
The yield on the Uganda 10-year government bond is 18.331%. Bond spread between 10 and 2 years is 406.7 BP. Long-term versus short-term maturities, that's a normal convexity. 10% is the central bank rate. Martha Nimsima, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Let's look at business recovery now. After a year of training with Stanbic Bank Business Incubator as part of the Network for Innovation and Sustainability for Agriculture and Tourism, supported by the French Embassy in Uganda, SMEs have embraced the potential to be supported in the sustainable development of their enterprises in agroecology and ecotourism to help their enterprises recover from the shocks of COVID-19. Let's have a look at this story.
SMEs, as opposed to other businesses, were significantly impacted by the pandemic because the majority of them deal with everyday goods. After the closure of various jobs, a project was created to address Ugandans' job needs, where the French Embassy collaborated with Stanbic Business Incubator to organize and promote agroecology and ecotourism.
Businesses out of suffering. If you recall, most of this, or the program was actually initiated during the COVID period. But most important of all, to try and get as many women and youth entrepreneurs into the entrepreneurship ecosystem where they can be seen, their products can be known, their businesses can be known, and they can also be able to provide goods and services to a variety of entities that are out there that need their services. We so far have over 120 graduates, and I think for us that's a great number. Our initial target, or our target, was 100, but we've been able to accommodate over that by 20%. And I think for me that's testimony to our capabilities to be able to perform quality and still have the same output coming out. We have done this for the last 1 year and a half, and of course it ends in March, but this for us is just the beginning of what can actually be a great story. So
the French Embassy wants to instill with Ugandans the values of gender equality, the advancement of the youth, and environmental conservation through the Stanbic Bank Business Incubator.
The necessary innovation in our societies, the promotion of youth and gender equality, and the protection of the environment, of course. These are the values and ideas that bring us together today. They are the foundation of the relationship we are building together. Actually, rethinking the relationship between Africa and France is at the heart of our President Emmanuel Macron's mandate and program.
Some of the graduates say that their businesses were at a standstill and that this training came at a time where they needed it the most.
When I came, I was looking forward to getting that and also business growth and publicity, yes. When I had just joined NISAT, like I've said, I was struggling and there's a lot I didn't understand about my business. Right now, with the knowledge I have about business, with the aid they've given me in formalization and registration of my company, with the market access that I have got already, in the next 5 years, my target is to be able to export directly. My target is to be able to work with at least 100 outgrowers for export. Also, my target is to be purely organic in my production.
Some abilities stay with people and are put to use to improve the operation of their businesses.
Well, through the NISAT program, especially in the field visits, we were taken to St. Jude family projects in Masaka, and while there I learned firsthand how to produce organic inputs, and that is one of the biggest challenges in organic production. So I learned that. I've also trained people on my farm, and we have already started processing our own inputs like biofertilizer. Right now we are doing our own biofertilizer and composts and biochar, but also we are also producing our own insecticide through mixes that we learned with ash brews and hot peppers and vermites.
RONAH NAHABWE, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Business Today will now take a short break. We are glad that you're still glued on Smart 24 TV for this particular bulletin. Please don't go away.